Hello friends, and welcome back to my crafty space. My name is Crystal, and in today's video, I am going to be working through a project planning process video using the Bloom Story Kit from Ali Edwards. This is the first video in the Story Kit Crush series this month using this kit, and I'm super excited to pull everything out and see what stories come out of this product. This is one that may potentially be a little tough to pull stories out for me, so we'll see. I'm excited to push myself and to get outside of my comfort zone in designing some stories and deciding on some stories to tell this month. So my plan is to try and pull out a story that I can put in both one for my daughter and one for my son in their story albums. I will also see if I can get a story for my niece for her baby album. And then I'm working in a variety of different sizes. So I'm going to see if I can get some, maybe a 12 by 12 spread, some 6 by 8 spreads, a traveler's notebook spread. We're just going to have fun and shake things up and keep it interesting by changing up the sizing and changing up the albums in which the stories and the kits will go. I also will pull out some product to use in a Project Life spread, so that will be something as well. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the kit and get some stories told. All right, so getting started with my planning process for today, I am first going to pretty much set everything over to the side and start with the journaling cards first. Now, I have an idea right off the bat for the little pockets, the craft pockets that were an add-on to this kit. And before I go ahead and solidify that idea, I just wanted to go through the rest of my cards here and see what I wanted to use for specific stories and what things I could potentially use for this other idea I've got. So when I went to plan this out, I knew I wanted to tell a story about my husband just blooming in his current career. So I loved the card that says, "So love watching you bloom," and I thought that that would be perfect for telling the story about him. So I'm setting that one to the side, and I'll come up with some different embellishments for it later. Then above that, where you see the card that says "Feel the fear and do it anyways," this was the month when I'm actually planning this that I did the content for One Little Word. So I was the instructor for the month of April, and I wanted to talk about what it felt like to be an instructor for the class, how, it's a little nerve-wracking to do something like that, feeling the fear and doing it anyways. And then I really loved the card that said "Open up, open up, open up," and I felt like that went with it so well. So I'm sticking that in a pile up at the top of this page. I also really loved the way the card that says "Bloom in your own way at your own time" looks with the beige card that says "The flower that blooms in adversity is the most rare and the most beautiful of all." And then to put those both with the patterned floral card. I'm not sure at this point if I'm going to use the full card or if I'm only going to use a portion, but I like the way that those go together. In the bottom, I'm struggling with the card that says "May the flowers remind us why the rain was necessary," which at this point in time, I'm thinking I'm going to use that in a pocket page notebook where I do a lot of in-depth journaling. And that sentiment is very relevant to what life feels like right now. So, I have that card, but then I also have "There are flowers for those who want to see them" that I thought could go well sentiment-wise with that card, but I'm not really loving the way those cards are going together. So I'm ultimately going to end up telling two separate stories with those cards. For these plastic flowers, I love the idea of stacking them on a larger canvas and having those just be a feature part of a spread. I'm going to also grab over a couple of the felt hearts. Those were one of the other add-ons that I got this month, and add those into the mix, as well as one of those cork words, which I will cut apart and add in with this supply pile later. I figured that those would be really nice to put on the spread with my husband, so that is where I'm going to put that one. The bloom plastic word there, I'm trying to figure out a good place to add that one as well. And so other piles here. I love the one that says I am, and it says something about no matter how chaotic life is, sunflowers will always be there, or something like that. And I loved those for telling the story about how even when life feels crazy, which sometimes life feels crazy right now, that there are still good things to be seen in that life. So just looking at positivity and what are things that I am doing to stay positive and to stay grounded. So I think that that will be a really good jumping off point for that story. I've got a pile to the left there, which is what I'm thinking about using for a Project Life spread at this time. So I'm just kind of keeping that pile over there to the side. And here's where you can see that I'm going to add in the leafy card with the I am cards, and then add one of the chipboard tags there as well that says where flowers bloom, so does hope. I felt like those went really nice together, all of those sentiments. Again, I'm just faffing about with those two cards. I'm trying to figure out what the heck to do with them, if I want to keep them together, if I want to separate them. I'm having a hard time with that. And then I've also got a pile of cards down in the lower left-hand corner that I've pulled aside to create a mini book with the craft tags, which I'm so excited about it. So you'll see a little bit later how I'm thinking about putting that together. But I love the idea of creating something mini that I can also add inside of my larger album. So once I had my cards sectioned off into piles, the next thing I did was to go through the embellishments. So we did the plastic flowers, we did the felt flowers, I'm working through the chipboard tags, and then I'm also pulling out this die cut set. Now the die cut set is really, really fun because it fills up a space. There are so many different shapes included in there, but you can actually like finagle them to all fill in an area. So if you're working in, let's say, a 6x8 canvas, you could probably do a section of that 6x8 covered up with die cuts, and then have a portion of that 6x8 be an actual photo or something of that type. I think that would be a really cool spread. I am going to set them aside to use in the pocket page notebook. So I'm going to pair that with the card, the one that says flowers remind us that the rain was necessary. I'm gonna combine all of those together and just make an embellishment page, which I'm so excited about because it's just using a bunch of product on a page, but it also can look almost grid-like and very intentional, which it is intentional, but sometimes you want it to look intentional too. So this is just me playing with the idea of stacking all of those together, and then you'll see me put them all off to the side with the card as well. One of the chipboard pieces I will remove from that pile and use it in my little book that I'll put together here later. And then the rest of them will remain over there. And then for the bottom two piles that I just did, I originally was thinking about setting some of this stuff aside to do a Project Life spread. But in actuality, I've already done a Project Life spread with the digital kit right as this was being released, this particular kit. So I don't feel like I need to do another Project Life. Instead, I took that product and I divided it into two additional stories. One that says Bloom Again, where I figured I could tell the story about our garden waking up, and one that says I've Got This, which I figured I could use to tell a story about my son. As I'm going through my planning process, I always try to tell at least one story about my daughter, one story about my son, and now I'm also looking for stories to tell for my niece, so things that would pertain to working in her baby album. And then I reach out to my sister-in-law, have her send me some photos and some journaling, and then I put together the spread with the products I've got. And I usually have a general idea of what type of story. So with blooming or I forget what I ultimately set aside for her. I think the card that I'm having a hard time with, the one that says, flowers are there for those who want to see them, I believe that's one of the cards I set to the side. And the story prompt that I sent to her was something like, what was something that was hard to get through, but then you could see the good in the moment as well. Just something kind of vague for her, but she can take that and run with it to just journal about something that's been part of becoming a mom. So that is that. So those are the 3 main stories that I try to tell with every kit. I generally do a project life spread, although I've been doing a lot more of those with the digital kits. So sometimes I still tell one with the physical kit, and sometimes I choose not to. And then I will try to tell a story for my pocket page notebook, which is, like I said, the more in-depth journaling. And then I will try to tell at least one for our general family album. I've recently started working with 12 by 12 canvases. So I purchased a 12 by 12 album to use as a story album. So the same as I do for my 6 by 8s, where it's fairly random stories that go into there, and just a little bit more, I don't want to say designed, that might not be the right word, but they're not traditional 12 by 12 spreads, but they are 12 by 12 spreads. Just, I guess, whatever style you would say my style is, that style. And I've really been enjoying it. So that is one of the things that I've kind of started doing with my spread, or with my kits too, is trying to find something that I can tell in the larger format, something that I can tell in a smaller format, so a traveler's notebook format, and then a bunch that I can tell in the 6 by 8, since that's generally the size I work in the most. So that is that. All right, so I'm just trying to double check and make sure that everything is as I want it to be. And I'm adding in a planning sheet for each of these. So what I'm trying to make decisions on is what size of canvas I want to add these to. And then, just being more concrete on what that project is going to be about. Once everything has a planning sheet and it's sectioned off into groups, the last thing I've got is to just go through and create some sketches. I did set aside at this point in time the Bloom story stamp with a 3 by 8 layout, because I figured that could be where I tell the story for my niece, but ultimately, you'll see a little bit later, I will end up adding some cards over there, and it will become a different spread altogether. But I do have a 3 by 8 album layout prepared for her, or planned for her. So let's get into the sketching. For this first story, this is going to be the mini album, and you can kind of see how it's going to work here. So I'm going to put the chipboard piece on the front pocket and have some twine behind it so I can tie the book shut. Then inside of each pocket, there is a journaling card that says, "Love this story." And I thought what would be really fun is to tell the story of places in our lives that each of us, so my husband, myself, Isabella, and Jonah, are currently blooming or thriving. So I'm going to tell that story, and then include a photo that goes along with it inside the pocket. So every pocket will have a journaling card with a story and a photo on the back. And then in between the pockets, or I should say on the back side of the pockets, I'm going to add some journaling cards or some additional photos. That way I can finish off the back side, but that also gives me a place to add in hinges in order to make the book go together. This project right here is going to end up being the first one that I create. So I figured that it was the most different of all the things I was doing and the most complicated, and I wanted to just go ahead and put it together because different and complicated projects actually make me feel really excited to work on them. And then also, I know it's a little confusing without being able to see it done, so I thought that I would post that one first so you guys can see exactly how that comes together. And then if you still have any of those products left, you can totally make the same thing as well. So that is going to be the first one. Next, this is the product that I want to use to tell the story about our garden waking up. So the first thing that generally comes into our garden every year are the spear leaves of our tulips. So I took a picture of one, like super close up. It might have even been a portrait photo of one in our garden, and I want to blow up that picture on the right hand side and then fussy cut out the words bloom again and add that on top of the picture. Then I can just add a second photo, some journaling on the currently blooming card, and then some additional journaling on the green bubbles card. And then that will be essentially the project here. I also set the grow word, which is a cork word, aside in there as well, figuring I might be able to use that on the photo that I add in the 3x4 size. So that will be that story. This is the one where I'm going to talk about how I am trying to stay connected and grounded and positive right now. So I planned all of these projects right at the end of a really hard week. And so it was really nice to have sentiments like this one where I could then go and journal and get those feelings down on paper, and then also to have the encouragement to look for the positives, to look for, the rainbow that comes after the rain, to, those types of things. It was really therapeutic for me to plan those out. So I've got the patterned card that I'll add the chipboard tag on top of. I'll put another 4x6 photo with it. I'm going to have the quote card in there, and then the I am card is where I will hold my journaling. For this one, I am also very, very excited about it. So this is going to be the story about my husband and his blooming at work. So my thought is to add the flowers down one of the sides. So you're just going to see me position these. I pulled out a 12x12 textured white cardstock page, which is generally what I work on more often than not. And I lined up those flowers on there just to see how would they look when I got them on the page. And they're actually perfect. So I like having 3 of them in a row, having the top and the bottom with a felt heart on top that gives it a little bit more texture. And then I also like the bloom cork word going across the middle of the middle flower. So then I'm thinking about adding the card at the bottom that says, "So love watching you bloom," and then taking the journaling card that says the story and adding that behind the card. That way it's almost like hidden journaling that can be revealed, and I can have a large photo go behind this. So I'm thinking about printing my photo at roughly like 12 inches by 8 inches or 8 inches wide by 12 inches tall, having that go on the back, and then just adhering the card on top of the photo with a pocket sliding area for the story card to come out of, which I think will be really cool. So I am going to just go ahead and get this all set up on here. You can see I did write 9x12 photo on there and ended up needing it to be not a 9x12. I think it was an 8x12 because I believe the floral pieces are 4 inches wide. So I also thought maybe I could fussy cut out, and I believe that's what I drew here, is like, let's fussy cut out the so love watching you bloom and add that on top of the photo so that it's not just a big bulky card, and then maybe create some kind of plastic pocket on top of that or to the side of it to add the card. So in some way, shape, or form, my plan is to put both of those on top of the picture. It's just going to be figuring out how do I add it on top of the picture so it doesn't cover up too much of the picture, but also giving me a place to tell my story, which is ultimately the most important part of this whole thing for me, is the story. So that will be that one. I'm really excited about the 12x12 one. I've really been loving experimenting with it, and I think it's just a really fun large size to work with. For this next spread, I am actually going to put this in my one little word journal. So I brought my journal over. You can see on the right side I have the Embrace April heart. I haven't filled any of it out yet because we're still in the beginning of April as I am voicing this over right now. And what I thought I would do is take the cork piece that says making progress and putting that in the middle of the heart. And then on the left-hand side, I'm thinking about adding the Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway up at the top of the page, and then filling the page with journaling or something like that, and then finding a place to add the open up, open up, open up. So either On the right-hand side, maybe around the heart, because it could fit in there. Maybe on the left-hand side, I might fussy cut them out and add them to the bottom as almost a border there on the bottom side. I'm not totally sure how I want to use those up, but I like the idea of them. So I'm just gonna sketch it out and figure it out later. I might not have a ton of journaling either, so maybe I just treat the page as a pocket page and just add the cards directly onto the page and only my journaling on there. So I'm not really sure at this point, but having this rough sketch is enough for me. It helps me to think about it. And then for ones like this one where I'm not 100% certain on the sketch that I have made, I do, feel okay in the fact that I could change my mind if I want to. Like, I don't have to do it this way. This just helps me to figure out, if I want to do it this way, if I want to have my page look like this, how much journaling space am I going to have? Do I add any photos? If I add photos, how big should they be? That sort of thing. And so then when I can get it designed and get it figured out later, it takes a lot of the questions and the time that it takes to make decisions away. So I guess that is that. For this next one, this is the pile of supplies I'm going to use to tell a story about my son. And what's nice about these two cards, one says like a little story about life right now, and the other one says, I've got this. Both of those are very generic. And if you didn't know that they came in the Bloom kit, you might not know that they came in the Bloom kit because they're not super specific to blooming. Which makes them perfect for telling really general stories. So what I thought I would do here is to pair a 6x8 photo with a 3x8 page protector. So maybe a one of the divided ones. So there's two 3x4s in the 3x8. So then I can add the I've got this card up at the top and put my journaling in there, put some kind of photo in the bottom, and add on the cork title piece. And then for the photo itself, I'm thinking I will trim down the 6x4 card down to maybe like a 6x2 or 6x2.5, something like that, and put it at the bottom of my photo with some journaling in the center. So I'm thinking that that's probably how that one will turn out. For this next story, this is the one that will be about Izzy. The first thing I did is I took that floral card and I cut it in half because I only want to use half of it on this spread. And what I'm thinking I'll use it for is a mat. So I'm thinking I'll print a photo slightly smaller than the 3x4 size. Probably put a white border around it just to give it a degree of separation from the busyness of the pattern, and then use the pattern as, the mat around that. I think that will be really pretty. And then for the journaling portion, I'm going to add the journaling right on top of the tan card there. Pair this with a 6x8 photo or a photo that's outside of the page protector and use the Bloom plastic piece with the cork title that says, I think it's like slow and steady is what it says. And I'll add that onto the photo and use that to create the full spread. For the one with my daughter too, I'm thinking about journaling about the past year and her resiliency and how even in the face of adversity of being home for an entire year and the world being shut down for the most of it, that she's still bloomed and she's still becoming, something really wonderful. For this next story, this is the one I'm going to put inside of my pocket page notebook and where I will finally make the decision to not use these cards. What I had originally thought was like maybe I could take the cards and add them on to one of the traveler's notebook pages and create a flip up with it. So you could flip it up and see the journaling underneath or something of that measure. But then I decided that I would rather have a full page of journaling and then a full page of embellishments. So I'm just going to set those to the side along with the cork piece that says this moment. And that's what I'm going to use to create a spread for my niece, which I will do, I believe, at the very end of this video. So, after all, I ended up finding I ended up finding cards that I could use for a spread for her. So I don't have to use only my stamp set, although I still would have, because I think, I don't use my stamps nearly as much as I would like to. And it would have been a good opportunity for that. So for this embellishment page, what I'm doing is just trying to move things around until I can get them into a position where there is like relatively the same amount of space or in between each of the pieces here. And I will find a pattern that works. And once I do, I will sketch out the exact pattern on my page, because if I didn't, I would never have remembered and gotten it right again. So I just am trying to figure out how to use literally all of those die cuts on one page, and it works out awesome. The only one that is not going to be on its own is the circle with the flower in the center. I'm thinking I will fussy cut out the flower and add it on top of the super florally circle, and that way I can still use them all. And, it'll be good. I was trying to see if I wanted to add more of those felt flowers into this section. But I felt like it wasn't super balanced, like they were all either in the center or there just was something weird about it. So I left only the one in the middle, and then I've got 3 remaining. So I've got 2 of the lighter pink and 1 of the like maroon red color. And what I thought I could do instead is use those underneath the title for this particular story, and then it would help draw the 2 sides together. So for the photo, I'm thinking I will print a photo of some flowers that I just recently bought myself and print that on vellum and then stick that inside of the pocket so that when it is on either side, you can see through a little bit to what's behind it. I thought that could be really pretty. So this is where I am literally going to go and sketch out each piece so I know what order everything goes in, because seriously, I never would have been able to do that again. And with the 4x6 card, what I will do with that one is to trim it down to 4 1/4 inches wide. And then I will likely just cut off the yellow part to use that as my title, and then print my journaling on a separate page, because with this book, I do go really deep and I typically write a lot and then print it at a very small text. So there's no way I could handwrite it, and have it all fit. So I will definitely print it off and then add my title to the top of it and then stick that into the book. So I believe this is the last one. This is going to be the story for my niece, and it's going to be real simple. So my plan is to, well, first of all here, I was trying to see if I could turn this 3x4 card, or the 2 3x4 cards, into a full-on 3x8 page, so I could just have 2 3x8s. And I feel like there's too much happening with the flowers that it needed to be its own card. It didn't work having it on top and on bottom. So instead, what I'm going to do is add a photo onto the right hand side, so a 3x8 photo, and then take my 3-inch circle punch and punch out a half circle to add to the bottom of the photo, and then add in the This Moment title. Then for the top, I can add my title there, or my, what do I want to call that? My sentiment card, I suppose. And then on the bottom, what I'm going to do is still take the stamp set in order to create my title and stamp out the story, maybe on a different colored cardstock that I can add to the top of a white card. And then I can add my journaling right there to that photo, or to that, to that sentiment. So once I have everything packaged up here, then my planning process for today is completed. All right, friends, that finishes my planning process for today. So out of that one story kit, Bloom story kit from Ali Edwards, I was able to pull out 9 different stories that I can tell. And I've actually got the stamp set here set aside as well, because I might be able to do something with this for something. I'm not exactly sure what story I would tell with that one, but I'm going to keep it there just in case. So 9, possibly 10 stories out of that story kit. I do want to mention that I decided to forego the Project Life spread with this kit this month, because I've already done a spread with Bloom in my 2021 Project Life album. I worked with the digital kit for that spread, but still I thought it would be maybe a little redundant to have the same kit in there twice. And instead I decided to just take that product and divide it out to tell additional stories instead. So there's that. All right, well, I hope that this helps you to see how you can take a kit and pull out lots of different stories from that one theme. Maybe it gives you some ideas on how you can use your own Bloom story kit. And I'm just really excited to get started telling stories. So in addition to this planning process, you will also find a process video that's going live today as well, which will be the first process for the Story Kit Crush Challenge this month. I will most likely be doing 2 projects in that video because I have a lot of them to tell, so I might as well do more than one. And then every Friday through the end of May, I will be posting yet another video for Story Kit Crush showing you how I'm putting together these stories. So excited. Hopefully I will have you guys joining along with me. If it's not with the Bloom kit, then with whatever kit you have in your stash that you haven't quite used up. Or even if you've already told some Bloom stories, maybe this will give you some ideas to pull it back out and tell a couple more. If you enjoyed this video, I would love a thumbs up down below. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can see all of my future crafty videos. I will be back again later today with another video, and then next week with some additional process videos coming your way. Until then, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye, friends.